So now we have to find the solution of this initial value problem, and if the solution is y, then we have to find the value of y at 2. So let me just type again in this equations editor. Okay, so we get this here, and we got b and all that, right? So what is our equation then? d2 y dt square, okay, and then minus dy dt minus dy dt, then minus 2y equals sine t, and the initial conditions are y0 is 0 and y prime 0 is 1. Okay, so if we write the auxiliary equation, we get s squared minus s minus 2 equals 0. So that gives us s minus 2 times s plus 1 equals 0. So s would be negative 1 or 2. So our complementary function is, what is our complementary function? That is c1, okay, times e to the negative t, and then what we have next is, say, a constant c2 times e to the 2t, and after we have found the particular solution, we will apply the initial conditions to obtain the values of c1 and c2. Now looking at this part, what we can assume as a particular solution is that yp equals cosine t plus b sine t. Now we will have to substitute the values according to this in the original equation. So what we do is we take the derivative and the second derivative of this equation. So let's take the derivative. Okay, so the derivative would be what? Negative a sine t, negative a, sine t here, then b cosine t. So we got b cosine t, right? And then we will take the derivative of this again, because we need the second derivative to substitute in. So what do we get is, we simply get okay, second derivative. All right, okay, so let me see if it would put there. Okay, so here, okay, all right, just tolerate this for a moment, okay, because and I will accept it. So this becomes a cosine t, and then minus b sine t. Okay, all right. Now when we substitute all this in this equation, what do we get? Y double prime. Okay, so this is our y double prime, then minus y prime, that will be this quantity, and then minus 2 times what? Simply y, and that's this right here, and that all equals who? Sine t, right? Okay, so now we would do what? We will just collect the coefficients of cosine t and sine t. So let us see how many cosine t's do we have. Okay, so we got negative a here, right? Then minus b minus 3a. So we minus 2a, I'm sorry, 2a. We got those many cosine t's, then plus, then we are going to write how many sine t's? Negative b, negative is positive, so that's positive a, and then we get what? Negative 2b, am I right? Yes, negative 2b sine t, and that equals how much? Sine t. So what does this give us? This gives us simply the following, that this would be negative 3 here. Okay, all right, rest is just algebra. Okay, then here we have minus 3b, so we get two equations. Who are they? Negative 3a minus b equals 0 because there is no cosine on the right hand side, and a minus 3b simply equals what? 1. So we can do this, that is multiply the top equation by say negative 3 and add these two together. So what we shall get then is that 10a would be 1, or a is what? 1 over 10. Okay, and then if a is 1 over 10, b would be negative 3 over 10. Just use this equation, right? So b is negative 3 over 10. Okay, so what is our particular solution then? Our particular solution is a is 1 over 10, right? Okay, and then b is negative 3 over 10, right? Negative 3 over 10. Okay, and so our general solution would be what? Our general solution would be the complementary function. Where did that go? Right here, plus the particular solution, which is this right here. Let's write it down. Okay, all right, now let's just take the derivative of this, because now we are going to use the initial conditions here. So y prime would be what? Negative c1, okay, e to the negative, e to the negative t, all right, and then plus 2 c2 e to the 2t, right, and then minus 1 over 10 sine t, okay, minus 3 over 10 cosine t, minus 3 over 10 cosine t. Okay, so when we use this, y at 0 is 0, so let's apply that, and that's what that would, when we apply that, what do we get here? So since y0 is 0, at 0 this quantity is a 1, so that's like this. This quantity is a 1 again, this is 1, and the other quantity is 0, and this equals 0, right? So what we get is that c1 plus c2 is negative 1 over 10. Okay, let's write it down. Okay, so c1 c2 is negative 1 over 10. Okay, and c1 plus c2 I meant, and then here y prime at 0 is 1. So what do we get from here then is negative, let me just type it in, easier that way, c negative c sub 1, okay, plus 2c2, so plus 2c2, okay, this part will be 0, this would be negative 3 over 10, okay. So, and that equals what? That equals a 1. So this implies what? Negative c1 plus 2c2 equals, when we transfer it to the right side, what does it become? That becomes, I think, 13 over 10, right? Okay, so we have this equation and this equation, the two equations right here. If we add these two equations, you can see C1s will cancel, and the C2 then added with 2C2 will give us 3C2, and the right hand side we will have negative 1 over 10, then 30 plus 13 over 10, so that will be 12 over 10. So C2 would be how much? C2 would be 4 over 10, right? Or 2 over 5. So whatever you want to write, okay? Yeah, let's write 2 over 5. It's okay, let's keep 4 over 10, because when we take C2 as 4 over 10 here and transfer it to the right hand side, C1 becomes what? Negative 5 over 10, right? Okay, and 5 over 10, which are, we can reduce them now. All right, so where is our y then? Y is right here. So our y is, let's write it down. Our y is negative 5 over 10. Let me just write negative 1/2. Okay, and then C2 is 4 over 10. So let's write 2 over 5 here. So we have to find y2. Okay, and for that we are going to employ our calculator. So we pull up our calculator, and what we have is negative 0.5 times e to the power, what's that? Negative 2, because t is 2, plus 2 over 5 is 0.4 times e to the power 2t, t is 2, so that will be a 4, plus 1 over 10 is 0.1, then cosine of 2. Make sure that you are in radian mode, then minus 0.3 sine of 2, and that becomes approximately 21.4572, right? So we'll just write it in here, 4572. Okay, so we have, we'll save it. I had something coming up on the other computer. Okay, so, and then we save it right here. Okay, and so let's see if that part got saved. Okay, it is saved, and okay, good. Now we go to the next question. Okay,